Unfortunately, the first year in the house was a very difficult year. There were a lot of changes in staff. I think there were 3 or 4 house supervisors in that first year with the same number of supervising level people above the house supervisors. And people became more and more irritated with me. Nick was unhappy in the house too, and he was bored, frankly, because he couldn't communicate with people. People didn't understand what he was saying, so he couldn't share his life with people there. Nick wanted to be out and about and doing things and having new experiences and meeting new people and talking to people. He's a very sociable person. Even though he can't speak, he's got a lot to say. And he wants to be able to share his life with people. And he didn't have that experience there, and so he became increasingly difficult from his behavioural point of view. And he was going from a very engaged time at the day program where people knew him, his friends were there, his girlfriend was there, and he would go from this very happy, very engaged place where he was well understood back to a home where there was nothing happening. And nobody understood him. So, I mean, of course he didn't want to leave. So we got into a stage where he was refusing to get on the bus to go back to the house, and it got worse and worse and worse. And at the worst, it took 2 hours to get him onto the bus. Yes, it was challenging behaviour, but it was challenging behaviour because of he was communicating that he was unhappy, and we had to address why he was unhappy, not try and put a band-aid over the challenging behaviour. At one stage when I was talking about how distressed Nick was, one staff member suggested that I leave him in the house for 3 months and not take him home, because by taking him home he wasn't able to develop a sense of belonging to the house. One of the things I found really difficult was that the staff didn't respect my knowledge of Nick. I'd spent 23 years living and breathing the same life as him. And yet they didn't seem to believe that I knew his pattern of abilities and the areas that he had difficulty in. It's very easy to see what he can't do. It's harder to see what he can do. And the area that was most painful and made me most angry was the fact that they thought that I was overestimating his communication, that they almost thought that I was making it up when I was communicating with him, because I know how to pay attention to his facial expression and his body language. I know how to put myself in his space so I can see the world through his lens and what's happening to him and what's important to him at that time. And so I can often work out what he is saying and then check it out with him. I remember one day when I was particularly worried about Nick, I rang one afternoon to see how he was, because his epilepsy had been a bit unstable that weekend. And so I rang, and somebody I'd not met answered the phone, and I said, "It's Nick's mum here. Could you tell me how Nick is today?" And he moved a little away from the phone and called out to whoever the other staff member was, "Oh, it's Nick's mum here. She wants to know how Nick is." "Which one's Nick?"
I just rang up and introduced myself and said, "Hi, I'm the new manager." And I think I felt as if we had at least a rapport to start with. But I think I on a level as being a mum and just wanting to hear Jane's story. And I was interested to know, what Nick's life had been like and what Jane wanted for Nick in the future.
So when Michelle came and started to listen and to build that trust again, we began to spiral up again. We could develop more trust. I became more relaxed and not so critical. The staff could relax a bit more. Some positives were shared. We could start to see Nick getting happier. Staff started to like Nick, and that was enormously, relieving, and I felt so sad for Nick to be in a house where people didn't like him, where they saw him as the behaviour, the challenging behaviour, the person with the challenging behaviour. But when things turned around and we started to build trust and they started to like Nick and Nick's behaviour became better and they liked him more and my behaviour came better and they began to trust me more and we got to a much better place.